booktube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you're new to me and it's the first time you're seeing my face, hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So I hope that's why you're here, because that's what's gonna be happening today. If you're not new to me, thank you for always tuning in and continued support. I really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my weekly wrap up. This is from week 34, August 20th through August 27th, and all my reading shenanigans in between. So if you'd like to see what I've been up to this past week, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay. So this week I completed 2 books and started one, not my best, not my worst either. So we're still working at it, guys, okay? I don't know. We'll get there eventually. I'll get back. But so the first book that I completed was Give Me Flesh and I'll Bring Hell by Martin Rose. This was an audiobook done by Christian Rummel. And we do have some gore and violence. We have featured the undead. We do have confirmed necrophilia, and then some odd reincarnated variation of necrophilia. I'm not quite sure what you call sex with a person who is housed by the skin of a person that was shot dead and it's covering your bones. So basically sex with that ectoskeleton. I'm not quite for sure. Yeah. If that sounds as weird as it fucked up as it sounded in my head and when I read it, this book's nuts. It's nuts. So we have Vitus Adamson, an undead detective who's asked to find a missing boy who happens to be a carbon copy of his son, who he killed in one of his zombie fugue states after experiencing Chemical X. And Chemical X basically turns you into the undead, or as what he likes to call in the book, pre-deceased. And in one of his zombie fugue states, as his turn finally happened, he massacred his wife and young son. And the child he is asked to find would have been, is about where the age of his child would be at the point where our story started, which was about 10 years after this all had happened. Now, Vitus is literally falling the fuck apart, okay? He is a walking zombie. He is rotting, he smells, he's afraid of flies because they can feast on him and destroy a body because they like living off the larvae and stuff. But when he realizes that it's his son that he's looking for, this turns into this very weird series of events. And through some Groundhog style fucking twists that just keep layering and layering, this story turns into some fucking weird ass cult style, child massacring, face eating, body stealing, literally body stealing fucking soap opera with a brother who has a son who doesn't love him, and Macbeth Hamlet style fucking ending. The absolute fuck was this book. I gave this 3 stars. This thing was a trip. Beyond. I don't know what I was expecting from this book, to be honest. I really don't know what I was expecting. When I read the synopsis, I thought, I'll give this thing a try. And it intrigued me, this idea of a zombie detective. But then it just went weird. It went so fucking weird and creepy and gory and ew and but I had a great fucking time with it. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. And Christian Rummel, he did a fantastic job as a narrator. I loved his voice. Definitely gonna be picking up some more from him. Definitely one to watch. I really enjoyed his voice. I love the gravel of the way he played it off. I even enjoy the way he did female voices, which I usually don't like. But it was a good time. So what worked? For starters, the crazy ass fucking storyline, an undead detective, and he's sent off to find a missing boy that turns in that it's like his son, but it's not his son because he killed his son. And through his trying to locate said child, parents turn out to be crazy and get killed by a masked assassin who he thinks is after him. And as he further develops this mystery and starts digging in, it turns into this cult that is led by a woman who is not who she says she is, but somebody far more closer to him in his real life. Without giving away, this story had a lot of twists and turns I did not see fucking coming. Yeah, holy shit. Loved it. Had a great time with the plot, the twists and turns, definitely elevated the story. When it started to get a little bit mundane, you're just like, then this weird fucking curveball came out of nowhere, and you're like, I'm sorry, they're cutting their stomachs to feed their father, and all of these kids are carbon fucking copies of his child that he killed, but they're not, and it's some kind of cult zodiac following Lord of the Flesh Eaters. That was what he was called. I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in this book, but I'm having a great fucking time. I loved it. It was fun. Those twists and turns definitely kept you going very, very much. I loved Vitus. He's another thing that worked. I loved how snarky, how dry he was. He was not written to be loved or to be adored, but I fucking fell in love with him. I did. I loved how honest and gritty he was, and it's just, he was a fucking ass, and he did not give a fuck. And I loved it. All he cared about was being left the fuck alone, and nobody would leave him alone. He was like, what the fuck? You're not my fucking kid. Go away. You're not my kids. Get fucked. Why are you cutting your stomach? Like, just asking the blatantly obvious fucking question. I loved it. And his encounters with Nico, who is our kind of femme fatale sort of character in this book, he was just like, yeah, I totally fuck her if I still had a dick. I'm still kind of jealous that thing fell off. I'm like, what the fuck? And she was all down for it. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Party, I guess. Yeah, like, damn. I loved him. I loved his story. And he is the narrator of the entire story. So you're constantly in his head, out of his head, telling a story. I just loved his dryness and his grit. It was just fucking priceless. There were a few times where he had to get a little bit of emotional, and it worked. He did a really, I liked that even that the emotional moments were still very close to the character that had been created earlier in the story. I had a great fucking time with Vitus. I really fucking did. Awesome time. I really liked the idea of this chemical X, or I don't think the word's chemical. It's something X, the drug that he was given, because his brother, who literally propelled himself through the army, is the one that gave him this drug and was trying to cure the dead, essentially is what he's trying to do, and instead he just made them. But I loved the struggle that he had with his brother, because you find out that his brother is not so brotherly love, as in more of Dr. Frankenstein kind of sort of thing. Just a really bad version of him. But I really liked the relationship between them, and how there was none, but yet you still got some kind of semblance that at maybe one time there was. And this is the brokenness of this relationship. So for the entirety of the story, I thought maybe I was going to get kind of like a reunion sort of thing. And I felt like that, and I never got it, but I'm okay with that because it was still a really good time. And the twist with him at the end, I was like, what? You did not. Oh, you a cold son of a bitch. You are cold. Damn. Apparently cold, snarky, don't give a fuck runs in this family. And it was awesome. It was a great time. A few things that didn't work in this book, though. So I love the twists. I did appreciate them. I had a good time with them. But it was just like the shock value of some of these. I felt like, really? What the? Really? He had the Madame Astra, who is this cult that he comes across when he's trying to locate Owen. That's the boy he's trying to find. He finds her having collected all of these missing children that all kind of resemble each other, and therefore also resemble Vitus before he became the undead. And she is convincing Vitus to not take his medication, which helps slow down the progression of the zombie and keeps him in like some kind of mental capacity where he can handle it. He's not becomes a zombie fugue state. He's taking his medication. She takes the medication away from him. And then you see this scene where you have a child literally taking his stomach and cutting out sections and saying, here, daddy, eat. What the fuck? Holy, what? That is some fucking Rob Zombie level fucking distorted horror movie shit, and I want to see it in a movie, and I don't know what that says about me, but threw me for a fucking loop. So some of the twists were so shocking, and there's a couple like that. They're just kind of like, the fuck are you doing right now? What? They're so shocking that it almost takes you too far out of the story. Not so much that it stops you from reading, but it's just enough where it kind of pauses you and you're like, do I want to continue with this? Yes, I do. But there's a moment where you have this brief, like, nah, maybe I don't. Because why the fuck did you have to go there? And then there's some other scenes that go there too. And gross. Just gross. This is a gory one. If you don't like gore, don't read this book. Another thing that didn't work was, okay, so I liked Nico in the beginning. I didn't really care for her character towards the end. I didn't really see the purpose of it. And her twist really was just kind of, whatever. I understood why she was there because we needed something. We needed some kind of female component because there's not really a lot of females in this book. And the only other female is, well, she kind of fleshy. She kind of nuts. And she kind of crazy. Yeah. She is not one to want to ever be around. Ever. Gross. She's fucking gross. She's just a gross character. I enjoyed her role in it, but she was gross. But Nico, she is our, she works in a mortuary. And she is the person who, helps prepare bodies for burial. So filling them with embalming fluid and everything. And he goes to her to kind of repair things. And I liked Nico. I liked kind of her snarkiness until we got to her backstory of her mom being a leper, because it's such a big deal that she touched Vitus. This emotional inlay of this story was really, really well done. But when we get to this point and we get to see her emotional, I just didn't care for it. I didn't give a shit. It wasn't compelling, and her mom had leprosy and was in a leper colony, and that's why she feels like these people need to be touched, and so she wasn't afraid to touch Vitus, and then she puts some plastic wrap over him and has a makeout session with him, and I'm like, ew, why? So weird. But I mean, to each his own. That's why I say kind of partial necrophilia is in this book as a trigger, because they don't actually have sex, but they get really fucking close, and the only thing between them is a whole sheet of fucking plastic. Not just a condom, a whole fucking sheet. So I'm like, what was the point of that? Like, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, I could have done without the story. The story was compelling enough and shocking enough that I didn't need that component. It was just kind of a useless filler. And then when her tie-in through the big major twist comes, I'm like, really? No, she wasn't that fucking vital. She wasn't that vital of a part. I don't care. Yeah, it wasn't, her element in the twist wasn't strong enough to warrant being there at the end. It was just the ending shock scene. The ending scene was where the big culmination, the big final twist was revealed. It would have been better if she hadn't been there. Truthfully, I felt that it would have been better if she hadn't been there. But I had a good time with it. I gave it 3 stars. There is some smut in it. We do have a sex scene. I gave this 1 chili pepper, because maybe 1.5. I could bump up to 1.5 because there is some graphic language. But it's not a very carnal scene. It's a very like quick passion. I haven't had sex in like 10 years because I haven't had equipment to fucking work. But the oddness of it with knowing, because you've already figured out what the fuck is going on with him. Like it's already figured out for you. And it's not ruining of the story, because it's his reaction that is the shocking part. So knowing this and then seeing what he does with it, and then you're like, oh, wait till you fucking find out. It's one of those kind of reveals, and I enjoyed that. But that scene at the very end with them, before that big reveal, I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know what you call that at all. I don't know. So it was a very odd scene. It was a very odd sexual encounter. But I had a good time with it. I had a good time. Definitely, if you like gore and you like weird and you like kind of introspective of how valuable life is and just the ability to enjoy your body while you have it. If you like that kind of introspection, I think you'll enjoy this, actually. If you don't like gore, don't read this. If you don't like child sacrifice, don't read this. If you don't like mass murder, don't fucking read this. If you don't like faces being torn off and eaten by flies, don't read this. If you don't like bones being fused into a skin of another person that happens to be your relative, don't read this. Yeah, it was a good time. Had a good time. But definitely, audiobook, totally worth it. Totally worth it. The next book I completed was for my Black Hat book coven. This is the book club that I have with Becky and Laura and Kaylani over here in BookTube, and I'll link their channels down below. And we read Olivie, I think is how you say her name, Blake, One for My Enemy. And I gave this thing a 4-star. It was kind of teetering between a 3.5 and a 4, but I bumped up to 4. This is a standalone, and it is a paranormal romance, Shakespeare retelling, primarily Romeo and Juliet. We do have some Othello and Hamlet thrown in there, some of concepts from them. And we do feature murder and revenge. Some fade to black sex scenes, nothing too spicy, but it was definitely enjoyable. So we feature Sasha and Lev, who are both the youngest of warring witch families in New York. And they are basically mobsters. So these witch families are like the equivalency of mobsters. That's kind of like their thing. Masha and Dimitri are the eldest born of the same warring families. So you have a family full of females and a family full of males, okay? And through deals and secrets and shadows and mirages, through a Shakespearean tragedy outline, no one is safe in this story. So there are so many deals, so many twists, so many layers to the story that you literally have to read this to understand how convoluted the plot line can get, because nobody is safe in this fucking book, which I did like about that. So what worked? Shakespearean references with a paranormal twist. I thought that was dope. I love that. I'm not a big fan of Romeo and Juliet. I personally do not like that tragedy. It's not a tragedy. It's two teenagers offing themselves. Yes, that is tragic, but the reasonings is stupid. They're stupid because they're not even teenagers. They're like 12 in the play. It's not a love story. It's just sad. It's very sad. So yes, it is tragedy. That's not the right word to say. Sorry. I'm not a big fan of it because it's the reasoning behind the tragedy is not worth it to me. It's just not, and they're also fucking 12. So Romeo and Juliet retellings are kind of, I've had luck with them. So when I figured out this was Romeo and Juliet, I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll give it a shot. And then it was like a paranormal twist with it, which was dope. That was awesome. I loved the pieces that Blake chose to use as kind of representation of Romeo and Juliet. And then she added this layer of twist, this twist layer on top of it. So it doesn't go the way you think it's going to go. I mean, you know how Romeo and Juliet ends. So you think you know how this book ends, but you don't. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed having that kind of flipped. And the ending she chose, I felt it worked and didn't work for me for different reasons, but we'll get into that. But the Shakespearean references, I definitely enjoyed. I had a good time picking them out and dissecting them and seeing how they were interlaced through this. I definitely did enjoy that for sure. The pace of the story, with all the deals and all the twists and all the layering on this, it's kept you reading. It kept you engaged. It kept you motivated. There wasn't really a lot of lull moments. I read majority of this in a car driving up to Wisconsin. So from where I'm at, that's about 7 hours. And I read majority of it on the way back and on the way up and on the way back. And I was entertained the entire way. I didn't fall asleep, but I usually fall asleep in car rides. I mean, granted, I'm driving through a bunch of fucking cornfields, so there wasn't really anything to look outside, so that wasn't really distracting, but I was very much engaged and into this book for majority of this book. There weren't a lot of lull periods, which I did really, really enjoy. I love the aesthetic of this book. So, I love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. But they're in the physical copy of the book. There are these end papers. So this is the Anatova, the female witch family. And then this is the Fedorovs, which are the boys. So you have these pictures. And you do have some other pictures in the book as well, which I thought were going to be teasers for like the upcoming chapter. And they were, but they weren't. But what I really want to point out is this. So every act or part has this act page, which you have like a quote from Romeo and Juliet, and it kind of surmises what's going to be happening there. So if you're following along with kind of the Romeo and Juliet story and really kind of intrigued by that element, this is really nice, which I did enjoy. And then of course you also have these beautiful graphics, which some of them do go along with and some of them don't. There was one that didn't go along. I was kind of depressed because I really wanted to see that scene. It looked really cool. As well as she does give a list of characters, which is really, really beneficial in this because we have two characters that have the identical same name. And they're also Russian names, so they kind of get a little garbled. So I love the fact that she gave us a character page. I really enjoy that when authors think about that kind of stuff, especially books with a lot of cast of characters. I really, really enjoy that because it kind of gives you some kind of reference to go back to. The layering of twists and turns in this book was fucking stellar. I enjoyed this. It was not a Mo Jones level of twists and turns by any shape or form, but the twists and turns that I got, they worked well together. The sequence that I was giving them in was fantastic. So I would get a deal and it would start making sense. But then we get another deal that would counteract this deal. But because of this deal, we get a flashback to something else that completely flips this whole story on its head. And you're like, wait, what? So it was this back and forth of these deals. And when these, and then you have these twists, reveals when the deal is supposed to come to fruition and it doesn't. You have this twist. You're like, whoa, what the fuck? How'd that happen? So very political, very revenge, very sinister, very just the intelligence that went into these twists and turns I thought was fantastic. You definitely saw the mapping that this author did, and I had a really good time with that. I really, really enjoyed it. The character of Bryn Mawr, I loved him. He is our backstabby, two-sided faced attorney, and he has his hands in fucking everything. All these deals, connected. All of the benefits, connected. All of it. He was your connector point, and I fucking loved him. I loved how dry he was. I loved how snarky he was. I love the fact that he also, he doesn't really get his, but I'm hoping that maybe one day he will. But he does have to go through a few things. I definitely enjoyed him a lot. I enjoyed his intelligence and the fact that he was just like, I'm going to play you. If you're going to be this stupid, I'm going to play you, but I'm going to act like you are in charge. And I really love that about him. I thought it was dope. And I would love a whole story about him, a novella about him. I would love a sequel to this book starring him. I would love that. I would definitely pick up a book by her about him. Thought that was dope. I think his story is not done yet. And I really enjoyed that a lot. What didn't work? So when I said I really enjoyed the ending, you have this big climactic ending. I mean, it is there. All of these deals, all of these fruition, all of these private, personal conversations are coming to light. Everything is being exposed. And then it's overshadowed with this really cute, sweet HEA. And I'm just like, I would have rather you stuck with the Shakespearean tragedy and not given me the HEA. Because the tragedy was there. I was in it. I was feeling the pain. I was like, oh, no. And then you flipped it, which was fantastic. And you give me another fucking tragedy, but you don't end it there. You give me this happy little ending at the end. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Give me the ultimate tragic. Give me it. I wanted it. And you didn't leave it at that. And that was kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying. There was a lot of unanswered questions and unsolved storylines, Bryn Mawr being one of them. I loved that I want more from this author about this character, but there is so much more that I want that I'm not comfortable saying that there was not a lot of unresolved issues in this story. And he's not the only character. There's a couple other characters that just kind of fade away and just do their thing. I'm like, excuse me. No, he needs something, she needs something because she a bitch and he's fucking evil. Something needs to happen to these people, like unresolved in unresolved storylines. They just needed to be taken care of, and I didn't get what I wanted, and I want to be selfish, and I want what I want. So yeah, I wanted some more resolution in this story because there's so many characters that I don't have resolutions for a lot of them. Another thing about this story is that there are so many characters, and we didn't get a lot of storylines with them. We get very small parts with some of these, but they're supposed to be major players. They all have a piece to explain this major plot line of what is happening with Lev and Sasha and Masha and Dmitri, and how their romances are tied and forever linked, and their storylines are tied and forever linked, even though they're two different generational happenings. One is a second coming romance, one is a blossoming romance. But these other characters, the internal, like the sisters, there are six. There's six sisters, and we only really hear about the eldest, Masha, and the youngest, Sasha. And the internal, we hear a little bit about them, but not enough to really generate why. They're kind of just like the forgotten ones, you know? And I wanted more from them. I wanted more meat for them. We just got like a couple pages about their story. And I was like, can we get more? They're cool. Thanks. And one sister, we only really meet once for like 4 lines, and then she goes back to sleep. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay. No, I need more. Lev and Sasha's storyline kind of was a little bit of a disappointment because it felt very insta, because we didn't have enough time with them. And Masha and Dimitri's romance, we got their whole backstory, and then we got to see their second coming, which I did enjoy a lot. I really enjoyed that, but I wanted more of Lev and Sasha because I like their couple story better. I thought their meet cute was fucking adorable. I loved it. Their meet cute's so fucking cute. It's adorable, guys. It's like a knight in shining armor, but at the same time, I don't give a fuck sort of thing, and it's like, yeah, it's great. I love their meet cute, but I wanted more development in their romance after that, because the scenes we got with them were great, but it just wasn't enough to really build this Romeo and Juliet style love, which I thought was kind of the point, because if you read Romeo and Juliet, it's like love at first sight, and all of a sudden she's like, deny thy father, infuse thy name, and I will no longer be a Capulet. It's like, bitch, you met this fucker once at a goddamn party. Like, the fuck, man. So it's very reminiscent of the Romeo and Juliet thing, which is another reason I don't like Romeo and Juliet, is because it's so insta. So the tragic ending is kind of bullshit because you've known each other for like a week. This one, you do get some more time with them, but I wanted more intimate details with them and more like banter, because I thought their banter was really fucking cute. Yeah, I did. Another thing that this book kind of did was underutilized characters. One in particular, Koshai, the Deathless, the father of the Fedorovs. He is underutilized. He is supposed to be this fucking powerhouse, and he was just kind of missing and vacant from everything. Like, he just checked out. And I was like, what? Your family is literally being decimated and whittled down to the worthless. And you are not the Deathless. You're just kind of the worthless. Like, his name should be Koshai the Worthless, because he was kind of worthless this entire book. You could have written this whole story without him and just did him in flashbacks. Like, that's how non-important his character really was, except for a few scenes. And even then, they could have been flashbacks, to be perfectly honest. So his power, I felt, was really underutilized. And I feel like he could have been utilized more. Bryn Mawr could have been utilized more. I mean, he was utilized a lot as being like, his hands were and everything, but there could have been some more sweating on his part, because he was involved in everything. Baba Yaga, the mother of the Antonova clan, the Antonova daughters, terribly underutilized. I thought she was going to be a powerhouse, and I'm just like, what? This book really does focus around Masha and Dmitri and Lev and Sasha, but the stars, I feel, of this book were Masha and Dmitri. That's the love story that you really wanted to hone in. At least for me, that's the one that I wanted to hone in on, and I felt I was more drawn to. And I feel like, because they had so much description, we got so much time with them together, we had so much backstory with them, that some of the other characters were underutilized to help build up that story, and they could have been. There was definitely a lot of area where characters could have been used better, which is the main reason it did not get 5 stars for me. So for a spice rating, I gave this a 1 chili pepper. It has a few fade to black scenes. However, in those fade to black scenes, I know exactly what parts of the body they're kissing, and they didn't have to say it. So I do enjoy these fade to black scenes. I thought they were done really well. They are just this side. Like, if she had changed one fucking word, it would have been spicier. But she kept it very clean. But you are fully aware of where Dimitri's kissing in one of those scenes, and you're just like, yeah, get it, boy, get it. That's how you do it. Yeah, there you go. Fun. But yeah, to be perfectly honest, this is adult, and I thought it was YA because the way the sex scenes were written, I thought it was YA. A young adult could read this book just fine, but it is adult content because there is some graphic, bloody nature in it. We do have some gore and some anatomy replacements. We'll call it that. Yeah. But it was a good time nonetheless. I gave it a 4 star, and I definitely plan on picking up more of her work. Atlas 6 was a book that I wanted to read. That's one of her bigger novels, and I wanted to read that, but I always just kind of like on the fence about it. And now that I've read her writing, it's very lyrical. It's very moving. It's very, she has a very pretty way of speaking. There were some lines in here I'm just like, oh, I see the Shakespearean in you. I see it, and I want it, and I fucking ate that shit up. She definitely invoked the Shakespearean lyrical, beautiful writing throughout the story, which really helped elevate this story to like another level, which I really did enjoy. But because of I saw that, I hope that carries through her other works, not just this one. I do plan on picking up some more of her stuff because I did have a really, really good time with this one. And I will link the live show that we did right here so you can see us talking and breaking it down a little bit more. And that's all I completed this week. And I did start a 3rd book, and that is The 3-Body Problem by Lu Sheng. I don't know how to fucking say this name. This is a Chinese translated work. It's the start of, I believe, a quartet. And I'm not that far into it. And, it's a trilogy. Remembrance of the Earth's Past trilogy. That's the name of the trilogy. But it's not sci-fi yet where I'm at, but where I'm at right now, pretty fucking gory. Like, the opening scene is a girl being thrown onto a spear and used as target practice while still alive. Yeah, that's the opening scene, guys. I had some bloody books this past week. It's a very, very bloody week. That's all I gotta say. But that was my week 34. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I will see you guys all soon with another video. Bye.